You showed them the blueprint and asked for funding. They didn't buy it. Technical presentations get priced in the wrong currency. Features, technology, specifications. But your audience isn't buying the mechanism. They're buying the tension that they already feel, or the tension their consumers, or the tension that the customers already feel. Until you price your work in their currency, resources go elsewhere. Tell the tension of the story behind the technology, and you might get funded to build what it takes to solve that problem. I'm Michael Bruner. I help technical professionals land ideas and shape decisions. In this video, I'll show you how to find the human tension that your work actually resolves, how to shape a value proposition that earns the win, and how to put it all together in a pitch that moves the room. Let's dive straight in. Presenting technology and information doesn't secure funding. Pitching a story is what gets you there. And technology isn't the story. The human tension behind the technology is the story. Technical teams often get that backwards or skip the human story altogether. If you quit your job and move to Silicon Valley, venture capitalists wouldn't just give you money for your idea and technology. You'd have to pitch your idea, and you wouldn't lead with the technology. You'd lead with a value proposition. Only if the opportunity lands and resonates would you describe the technology that capitalizes upon it. That's why all the frameworks exist, such as the Lean Startup, the Business Model Canvas, and Simon Sinek's Start With Why. The same approach that works to secure venture capitalist funding is the same approach that works inside a business or company. The staff meeting is the funding round. The leadership team is the venture capital firm. They're deciding every quarter whether to fund your work. The fact that resources keep flowing doesn't mean that the pitch hasn't occurred. It means the pitch is happening without you in the room. The problem exists that inside an established company, technical teams sit on top of resources that they didn't have to fight for. Work moves into development before the proposition is clear because it makes technical sense to the people that are closest to it. So the pitching skills remain undeveloped and unpolished. The technical mind is not deficient here, it just wasn't trained for the pitch. The career training rewarded precision and completeness and intellectual rigor. It rewards being right. But the pitchman operates very differently. No wonder technical professionals default to the technology. The startup pitch was never just about raising money, it's also a forcing function. A founder couldn't just say, "We built something very interesting," and walk away with capital. They had to make a case in front of someone who had to decide whether to spend their money. Inside a company, that forcing function that forces the clarity disappears. And the discipline of building the value proposition disappears with it. So let's take a look at building a value proposition and how to build those muscles. Understanding the human need. First, identify your target. Get specific. Not people who like barbecue, but new homeowners who are interested in purchasing their first barbecue grill. You need to know a specific customer and understand their specific point of pain. This is true whether you're business to business or business to consumer, whether you're selling a product or a service, whether it's internal or external. Once you know who the target is, map their needs and pain points. There are functional needs like easy meal prep or easy cleanup. And there are emotional needs like being the hero of the backyard barbecue with the perfectly smoked brisket. And social needs like a backyard gathering. Functional needs are what they need to accomplish. Emotional needs are what they have to feel about it. Map them both. There's a whole industry built just around market research. Understanding user needs with surveys and focus groups and interviews. Testing concepts, ethnographic and observational research. And social listening, just to name a few. I love all these different tools, but the key lesson here is to listen to the consumer, to get in front of them and understand them. Spend time in the forums where they're discussing their needs and points of pain and frustrations. It's not sufficient for a technical team just to envision the points of the pain of their users. Get close to your users and listen to them. Understand them. What's it like to walk a day in their shoes? What do they care about? What's frustrating them? Understanding their needs helps to focus and solve the right problems. Inform your strategy and prioritize the points of pain. Design for the users. Don't just make erroneous assumptions on what's important. Write the audience's pain in their words before you ever write a single sentence about what you've built. Use their language, not yours. If you can't do it yet, you don't have a value proposition. You have a solution looking for a problem. Remember to capture both the musts and the wants, the functional and the emotional needs. Each of these is a tension waiting for resolution. Once the tension is named in their words, the proposition naturally starts to take shape. A value proposition isn't just a feature set, it's a choice. There is no best car. Best for what? Best for mileage, the fastest, the most comfortable, the most luxurious, the most reliable, the most cargo space, the most eco-friendly, the safest, the most affordable, the most prestigious. Two concepts from marketing strategy will help us do the heavy lifting here. First, you need to figure out the points of parity. These are the table stakes or the minimum requirements to have the conversation at all. Then you need to figure out the strategic points of difference that really set your value proposition apart. Points of difference are the places that you actually win, and you can't win everywhere. You have to choose. If you're inside a company pitching for resources, your points of parity are the table stakes that every competing proposal covers. Security, scale, alignment with strategy, accountability, return on investment. Without these, you're not credible. With only these, you're not chosen. For a car, table stakes might be around safety and reliability, a way to listen to music, a nav system, cup holders. The value proposition lives in the difference. What does your solution do that no alternatives deliver? What is that advantage that's uniquely yours that a competitor or an internal team cannot replicate next quarter? In order to name your point of difference, a great first move is to name the next best alternative. Inside a company, that alternative is rarely another product. It's the spreadsheet they already use or a consultant they already trust, that project that they ran last quarter that almost worked, the decision to do nothing for another 6 months. Then comes what most technical minds resist, the trade-off. No proposition can be best at everything. If you try to be the most secure, the most scalable, the cheapest, the fastest, the most flexible, you'll be best at nothing. The discipline is to ideally pick one, possibly two at the most, dimensions where you will win. Then you have to consciously choose only to be good enough at the rest. That conscious choice is what makes the proposition have teeth. Without it, the proposition drifts towards parity and the audience can't tell you why your proposition wins. The breakthrough test is one sentence. Would your audience choose your solution over another alternative? If you can't answer yes, the proposition isn't clear enough yet. It is a parity offer dressed as a breakthrough. Now it's time to put it all together in a pitch. Once the tension's named and the proposition is sharp, the pitch almost writes itself. The order matters. First set the context. Then lead with the audience's pain in their own words. Name the tension that creates the pain. Show the value proposition that resolves it, only then describe the solution. Paint the picture of the next steps and ask them to enable them. Then bookend again back to the essence, back to the point of pain you are solving for the users. Most technical pitches reverse the order. They open with a solution because the solution is what the technical mind spends the most time on. The audience hears mechanism before motive. We need to flip that around. Mechanism before motive does not move budget. Try this structure for your next staff meeting. Open with a sentence in your stakeholder's voice that reflects a pain that they already feel. Not your pain, theirs, and use their words. Name that tension that your work resolves. The gap between what they need and what they currently get. Just one line. Then state the proposition. Who is this for? What changes? Why does it matter now? Why choose your solution over the alternative? Now, and only now, once you have traction, then describe the solution, the architecture, the methodology, the technical work. It will land differently because the audience has been primed to receive it. Then close with the ask. What you need: time, head count, budget, mandate, attention. Be specific. Then remind them of the essence, the why, before the pitch ends with a decision. This is the discipline that startup founders are forced to practice to get funding. Inside a company, you can practice it deliberately. The work is the same as it always was. What changes is the order and the focus, and leading with a strong value proposition can get work funded. Bringing this all together, for a value proposition, make it a discipline to get very clear on the target and their points of pain. You can't always pull it together overnight, but you can work to address it. One great tool is to create a learning plan. The learning plan is a systematic way to intentionally get closer to your end users, to identify insights, to answer key questions, to validate concepts. You can even have them test drive prototypes and get feedback early on the journey. Get in front of your customers and consumers early and often. A great way to demonstrate empathy is to write a one-pager in your stakeholder's voice. Their pain, their words. Then you write the value proposition that resolves it. With one point of difference you're willing to defend, and at least one point of parity that you're willing to compromise on. Then build the deck. The deck that follows will be a different deck. It'll feel different. In order to really land a value proposition, you really need to understand your audience. Watch that video next. The audience principle is the bridge between your value proposition and how you actually deliver it. Subscribe to Unlock Business for weekly videos on how to land your ideas and shape decisions.